Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. We've got a lot going on around the NBA, and this weekend we've got my MLS side, the LA Galaxy, here taking on Orlando SC, I should say, which is kind of, sort of Keith's team. So I thought I'd rock a little LA Galaxy gear for you here today, Keith.
If I had known, I would have gone and put my Orlando City hat on and at least would have cleaned up my messy, way overdue for a haircut hair today. But yeah, man, yeah, it'll be fun. I'll be completely honest. I did not know until you told me. But I'll add that to the list if I can fit it in around March Madness and NBA games and everything. The tournament tipped off today, and shout out to the front office show fans who filled up our
Mm-hmm.
bracket pool. There's over 80 of you in there, so that's pretty cool. So happy to see all you guys in there, and all the best to everybody's brackets. And we're a couple in Michigan and Providence win. So Providence, coached by one of my former high school teachers, so which is just a cool aside. And they're the team I'm rooting for in this year's tournament.
Just a little bit going on in the sports world right now, huh? We've got MLB free agency,
Just a bit,
NFL free
yeah.
agency, March Madness, NBA basketball. It's crazy. And then we're still keeping up with the MLS. We've got stuff going on in the MCU. It's a
Oh
busy time,
man,
man.
yeah.
It is a busy
Shout out
time.
to the person in the YouTube comments who said, I want Trevor and Keith. How much do I have to pay to do a half-hour Marvel show? You're gonna get it. You're not gonna get it until the summer. So you're probably about 5 months or so away. It'll be sometime in August, I imagine, that we will get around to that. But we will do it, I promise.
See, Keith, we gotta start offering like some premium content or something like that. We'll create
Right?
like a Substack or something or a Patreon for the show, and we'll get into some of the extra stuff like that. Maybe that'll be something that's in the future. But for right now,
Oh man.
in terms of the NBA, we need to start with this, and this is it's a little bit of maybe a controversial subject around the NBA, but in part because it involved a
Sure.
superstar player. Last night, the Warriors and the Celtics played great and got the win against the Warriors, but Steph Curry gets hurt in the game. Marcus Smart dives on a loose ball, rolls up on Curry's ankle, and now he's going to be out for a while. I mean, there's optimism he'll be back come playoff time, but this is obviously a major blow. I mean, one of the best players in the NBA. It's a huge blow to the Golden State Warriors. And Steve Kerr was pretty heated during the game. He was not happy with Marcus Smart. So there's different opinions out there on this play. Some people saying Marcus Smart
Mhm.
is it was a dirty play. Some people saying it was not. And Keith, I would assume from the Celtics side of things, you would say it is not a dirty play by Marcus Smart.
It wasn't. I mean, he dove for a loose ball. In I've seen people say, and then he rolled over. He rolled over to pass. Like you can't dive on your stomach and then make a pass from your stomach. You're gonna roll over to pass the ball, and it was kind of that bang bang thing. I'll also say too, Draymond Green came out after and said wasn't a
Mm-hmm.
dirty play. That's what Marcus Smart does. I think what exacerbated things was just only about a minute later he committed a flagrant foul where
He like karate
I
kicked.
honestly I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what he was trying to do, but he ended up kicking Clay
Mm-hmm.
Thompson on a play where Thompson basically got down, put a pretty good up fake. Smart went up, and I'm not sure what he was trying to accomplish, but he kicked him. They called it a flagrant one, as they should have. And again, Draymond Green said, "Hey, as somebody who's kicked a guy, it happens now." Draymond Green's kicked people a couple times,
There's a
and
little
once
different,
was not a yeah, once was definitely one of them was not an "it
right?
happens" thing. Probably the most famous time it happened for him. But yeah, I think too. It was also Steve Kerr. I think did what you should do as a coach in
Mm-hmm.
the moment. He was trying to protect this guy, and he was fired up, and he kind of let Marcus Smart hear it, and Smart kind of went back at him a little bit, and they talked a little bit on the floor, and then they talked right after the game. There's a picture of Kerr's got his arm
Mm-hmm.
around him, and they're both kind of smiling and laughing, and then Kerr said after, maybe I shouldn't have said it was dirty, it was reckless, and those kind of things. It sparked a whole lot of stuff on Twitter about, should diving on the floor even be a thing, and that it's that's not a conversation I think I really want to get into because it's just, I mean, whether you like it or not, it is kind of a part of the game. But yeah, it overall, and I said this to anybody who follows me will see it. It sucks that Steph Curry got hurt. Steve Kerr did the right thing. Marcus Smart's going to dive for loose balls. they talked it out. If they're good, we should all move on now.
So the kick, in some ways it wasn't nearly the same play, but it reminded me of. Do you remember that Bruce Bowen play from back in the day? That like the flying karate kick.
Yeah.
Who did he kick? Wasn't it like Wally Zerbiak or somebody like that? Somebody like pump fakes, and he winds up doing like
and this still looks worse. The still picture that's
Yeah.
going around on Twitter because it looks like Smart like jumped up with Smart was in the air and kicked his legs out. Which again, I don't know what he was trying to accomplish. He tried to explain he was trying to, knock a ball away but like you don't play like that with your feet in the air. Like that's just crazy. But just silly.
On the Curry thing, I need to preface this. So going into that play, because I saw all the buzz about it, and so going into it, I sat down to watch it and I thought, okay, so I'm looking at this from the perspective of I saw a similar play happen to LeBron James last year. And in my mind, I think it took away the MVP from LeBron last season. That was
very possible.
The polls and everything that were out at that moment had LeBron in the lead for MVP. He got hurt. Not saying that Jokic was not absolutely deserving, but in my mind, that play, that injury took away the MVP. So that's my perspective going in. I've already kind of got that in the back of my mind. And when the play first occurred, I went, ooh, that didn't look good. That, to me, Smart went through his legs. Then I saw the other angle. And you go back and you can go frame by frame and you watch Smart's eyes. He never once looks over at Curry. He never once tries to see where he's at. His eyes are straight to the ball. Hands go straight to it was like a goalkeeper in soccer diving straight for the ball. I don't think he knew exactly where Curry was. And I don't think there was any intent to go through his legs or anything like that. The initial play from the initial angle, I went, oh, that's not good. But as soon as you saw the other angle, I went, oh, okay, this was clearly that wasn't the case. And then afterwards, I thought Marcus Smart in his post game, in his walk-off interview, I thought he was incredibly genuine in terms of his explanation of what happened and expressing the remorse he did for Curry getting hurt and all of that sort of stuff. So all in all, yeah, I think it's nothing. I don't think it was something that was on purpose. I think it's unfortunate that happened, but and again, coming in from the perspective of, and coming in from a Lakers side of things already, so there's bias there, plus seeing a similar play happen to LeBron, I can't fault Marcus Smart for that play at all. It was a basketball play and things like that happen sometimes.
Yeah, I will also say too, only moments before that, there was a play where Draymond Green dove for a loose ball where Grant Williams was already on it. And again, I'm not faulting Draymond Green, but like it can't be a double standard. Right. Either diving into guys on the floor is bad or it's not. And, I get it. Like it sucks that Stephen Curry got hurt. It's really, really awful. So, I'm hopeful this is one of those things where they kind of get into it and they're like, all right, this is going to be a, they said indefinite, but in the reporting, they're hoping he'll be back in a couple more, couple games left in the regular season. It sounds like, and clearly they're not going to push him at all. So, flipping over to the basketball side of things and the impact on the Warriors, clearly you can't lose Stephen Curry and, say it's not a big deal because obviously it is. They are now a full game behind the Grizzlies. They're still 3.5 up on the Jazz and the Mavericks. So I think they're probably okay there. It probably does put a little more pressure on Draymond Green to play, a little longer and those kind of things. I don't think they're in any kind of position where they make any kind of move with there's not a move to be made that's going to be impactful this late in the season. But yeah, it's they're probably still going to get that 3 seed, maybe the 2 seed if the Grizzlies stumble, but it's that's the downside, right? Is now we're without Steph for what's probably my guess is at least a couple weeks.
I think the biggest thing is for the standings, it just makes it that much less likely that the Warriors reclaim that 2 seed from the Grizzlies. It makes it more likely that they stay at 3.
They need the Grizzlies to play poorly now.
And the Grizzlies have won 4 straight, which is the longest winning streak, in the West right now. So that doesn't help Golden State's efforts, and that could set us up potentially right now for a round 1 Golden State versus Denver matchup which would be pretty intriguing if that's the way
Mhm.
the chips fall come playoff time.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, can I do one quick thing while
Yeah,
we're on
yeah, yeah.
that?
Let's do it.
So I had tweeted about this earlier today, and just because I think we've talked a little bit about like how did the Celtics turn things around, right, to get to the point where they're at. They're now first in defensive rating, and they're first by a mile
Yeah.
since the start of 2022. But this is season long, so they're first in defensive rating. They're first in opponent field goal percentage. They're first in opponent 2-point percentage, and they're the only team in the NBA holding opponents under 50% on 2-pointers. So that kind of tells you, how dominant they've been in that end. And now after holding the Warriors, I think went 4 of 24 or something like, or 4 bad. It was bad, whatever it was. It was really terrible from deep. It was worse than 4 of 24, but it was, they're now first in the NBA in 3-point percentages, opponent 3-point percentage as well. They're certainly not first in 3-point percentage. They do not shoot it anywhere near that well themselves. But that's it. That's what's turned around for the Celtics, and then the offense has improved enough that they've got that going. But yeah, it's you lock in on defense the way they are, you're gonna have a chance every single night, no matter who you're playing, just because that's going to keep you in the games, even if your offense is struggling.
And here's what's most impressive to me, and I think we talk about the NBA being a copycat league. If you were, especially preseason, if you just sat down and you said the Celtics starting five is Brown, Smart, Williams, Horford, and Tatum, what's going to happen on defense? I would say they're going to get spaced out. Somebody's going to pick on Horford. They're going to isolate him and pick on him. And they're going to take advantage of the lack of speed, having two bigs on the floor at the same time. And they're going to get exposed from behind the 3-point line that way. That's how, if I'm coaching against them, that's how I'm attacking that, right? Is I'm trying to isolate the bigs, go at them, and then trying to find those open shots from the perimeter that ideally your Williams or Horford won't be able to rotate out to. So being able to scheme around those things, I think it is particularly impressive, and you don't see a lot of NBA teams that try to do that now. We're seeing more of the small ball fours out there, and sometimes even seeing small ball fives, and the Celtics have found a way to stay big and still not get exploited in the ways that I just described. So they managed to solve those problems and still have that size advantage that they've had, which is actually kind of similar to what the Lakers were able to do in 2019-2020 when they won. They were able to maintain a size advantage and still not get exploited by teams on the perimeter.
But it takes a big, like Anthony Davis or like the way Al Horford is playing right now to do that. The other thing I'll say with the Celtics to that point that you just made is they also play big almost the entire game. They do not start big and then close small. They regularly close with two bigs. Now, the second big is quite often Grant Williams, who's kind of more of a wing-sized big, but the way he plays, his play style is more that of a big still. So yeah, it's just, they've been making it work. And last night's game showed just how good they can be when they're fully locked in defensively. Cause the third quarter got crazy. Warriors are the best third quarter team in the league. They tend to blitz teams coming out of the locker room, and then games are over quite often. But the way they locked in, it was pretty impressive.
Meanwhile, on my side of things, the Lakers' nightmare season continued last night. Patrick Beverley chirping at Russell Westbrook. They went after each other in the media a little bit afterwards. Patrick Beverley took to Twitter to talk about it. It got bad. And that was about as demonstrative as I've seen a team be in terms of like just trash talking another team, at least this season, in the modern era of the NBA anyway. But then again, the Lakers didn't do anything really to put up a fight or stop the Wolves or anything like that. They did their, as Lakers fans have come to call it, the fake comeback, where they got to within 4 points and then immediately said, nope, just kidding, and gave back all of the points right back to the Grizzlies to lose by 20, all within one quarter. They had that swing.
Their defense is just so bad. They're
not trying.
I've said this. Yeah, it's so jarring to see a Frank Vogel team defend that way. Even as bad Orlando teams were more connected and locked in on that, because they don't. I wish I knew who tweeted it, but somebody said, "You never mind making the second and third effort. They don't even make the first one." On it. Yeah, it's the last thing I'll say on the Lakers too is it's more of a Russell Westbrook thing. I am getting a little bit tired of the whole, they don't have anybody over there who's ever done anything stuff and all his kind of shtick that he's
Mm-hmm.
going to now. Dude, you have talked junk to guys for years, and now you don't like it because it's getting thrown back at you. Like, sorry. Like, this isn't the fan stuff. That part's different. We already talked about that in length. You can go find that
Right.
show.
Yeah.
This is the other players. If you don't like it with when other players are talking trash, my man,
Play
you
better.
did it for years.
Play
Yeah,
better.
and yeah, that too, right? Play better. But like I miss me with that. I don't want to hear any of it.
I thought Wolves fans were actually fairly savvy early in the game. The Wolves had really just fantastic transition defense. The Lakers actually got a turnover on the first possession of the game, and the Wolves got back every Wolves player back into the paint, which led to a Russell Westbrook 15-foot jumper, and the Minnesota crowd cheered on the release. Because
Yeah.
they knew that's a win. That's a win.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right,
That is
that's pretty
smart.
smart. Anyway, let's move on from our teams though. Well, I guess to tie in the Warriors still, James Wiseman played in a couple of G League games.
Played pretty well,
Yeah,
too.
we've been hearing, hey, he's probably not going to be part of the rotation for the Warriors and things like that. But I mean, it never hurts to have an option. It never hurts to have an option. So having him play well, I think that's a good sign moving forward that he could at least be somebody there that, look, if something happens with Kevon Looney or you want a different look or whatever, that maybe you've got somebody you could turn to there.
Yeah, in 42 minutes over 2 games, he got up 25 shots. So clearly the directive was, let's get James Wiseman some touches, because that's pretty impressive. I'm jealous of that as someone who was a self-styled shooter back in the day. But yeah, 16 and a half points per game, seven and a half rebounds in those 2 games, blocking 3 blocks in 2 games, so a block and a half. Sounds like he might play another G League set this weekend, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But we're getting close to him playing in NBA games, which is unfortunately not something we can say for a couple other guys we're going to talk about in a little bit here.
Yeah, I guess let's start there with Doug McDermott, out for the season, severe ankle sprain. We're hitting that point. This is that point of the year where now injuries lead to out for the rest of the season because there just isn't that much of the season left.
Exactly. Yeah, if it's more than a week-long injury, generally 2 weeks is going to take you a couple days to get back. So that turns into 3 weeks. And then, we only get a little over 3 weeks to go in the year. So teams are starting to look at it and say, all right, you're done. You're shut down for the year. And the Spurs, though, like, it feels like they're like, if they'd push hard for like the rest of the way, maybe they could snag that, a play-in spot. Like they're there, but they just don't seem to really want it all that much.
Nope. Which is, again, that's been my sole confidence in the Lakers hanging into the play-in. It's that the teams behind them aren't pushing that hard for wins right now.
Definitely.
The Pacers are signing Justin Anderson to a 10-day contract. Justin Anderson, it feels like he's been around forever, just kind of bouncing towards, bouncing around different teams. But somebody who'll get another look now with the Pacers, and included in that Pacers news, TJ Warren is now officially out for the season. So now we haven't seen him at all this season. He had that great run in Orlando in the bubble where he was just red hot, and we really haven't seen much of him since then.
Yeah, I think I'm pulling it up right now to make sure I have it. Yeah, he played in 4 games last year. Played okay in those 4 games, then broke the foot, and then and then he's been out since then. And the release even says they decided with his people that it just is not worth it. That it's not worth it for him to come back and play, because there just isn't enough time for him to come back in a season that, I'm going to paraphrase, but in a season where there's not going to be playoffs, it does not make sense to bring him back. So, which I have a hard time arguing with. I think they're pretty on that one.
In Ben Simmons news, kind of ominous from Woj, Ben Simmons' back is so bad that he actually had to get an epidural. And now they're just hoping he can get a few games in before the end of the season. That's not great. I mean, I know there's not that many games left in the season, but still, that's concerning. That's where you're one minor setback away to no Ben Simmons this season, right? I mean, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And anytime it's a back injury, these things can. I mean, take it from me. I grew up with Larry Bird with back injuries, and it would be fine for months, and then it would go out, and then it was see it, 3 months later. Like it just was there. Oh, your Rams picking up Allen Robinson.
Ooh, A-Rob, can he turn things around? He was brutal this last season.
Yeah. A little break in there, but we'll tune into football chat later, and you can get more of that. So, still not Ty Montgomery though. That's Pat's cornered the market on that one. And then Baker Mayfield's requested a trade.
Yeah,
not surprisingly, right? You've tried to add 17 quarterbacks this offseason. Not surprised. He's like, hey, I'm good. What does he do though? Who takes ownership of the stadium then?
Oh yeah,
right. I mean, all those.
I don't know. Right? Yeah. He could sublet it or something like that.
Again, that's probably true.
That's what he would do.
That's probably what it is. So, all right, back to basketball. Yeah, I mean, back to Ben Simmons. I don't know what to make of this. I continue to believe if he can't get into games before the end of the regular season, you just can't play him. Right? You're not going to be able to play him because I just can't see how you put him on the floor in the play-in tournament or in the playoffs. It just, that seems like, and I'm not poking fun at Ben Simmons. That's just crazy to make that your debut with the team, especially when you've never played for that team before. And this is not a, hey, run around some screens and take open jump shots guy, right? Where, that's something you could do with a Seth Curry, right? If he was long term, you could say, hey, you're back, all right, run around and shoot jumpers. You've got to really get him incorporated. And, the downside to this is the Nets lost last night. Yeah. The Raptors won. So they're 3.5 behind Toronto now for the 7. They're actually closer to Atlanta in the 10 at 11 and a half games back. So it's not, and not to beat a dead horse here, but Kyrie can only play in 3 more games in the regular season. So it's going to be tough for them the rest of the way.
Oh, if you're the Nets right now, as strange as it sounds, but with how much time is left, you are rooting like crazy for a massive, and they're already on a 5-game win streak, but a massive Raptors win streak right now. So that they can.
Yeah, you want them to get out.
You want Cleveland.
You want them to pass Cleveland.
I'm not saying Cleveland's an easy matchup. It's just because Kyrie could actually play in Cleveland.
Yep.
And that's
100%.
So that's what you're rooting for if you're the Nets right now. The Raptors have the longest win streak in the NBA right now.
The Raptors?
5 games.
Yeah, 5 games. Yep. Yeah, they've been playing really well. One thing I'll say too is because I'm seeing this from fans up and down the Eastern Conference. Like, where do we want to be seated? Let's talk in 2 more weeks. And then maybe we'll start to have some idea at that point. It's too jumbled. Like, it's not, because then you get into, all right, who do we want in the first round? And what side of the bracket do we want the Nets on? And what about the Bucks? I don't want to be on that one. I don't want to be on the Sixers side either. Like, well, where is this going? So let's regroup. We'll come back to this in a couple weeks, but the East is still, it's tight between the Bucks, who are second, and the Bulls, who are now 5th because Boston passed them 2.5 games, separating all those teams, just 2 games in the loss column. So, those middle seeds looking pretty tight.
Yeah, absolutely. The Knicks signed Farron Hunt, and they waived to a 2-way contract, waived Lucas Simonik. Teams right now are just kind of shuffling some pieces at this point, seeing what they've got for the end of the season and doing some things here. And sometimes, like we've seen with the Miami Heat, sometimes these late season moves can matter. Most of the time, they don't wind up being a huge deal.
Yeah, and Simonik got hurt and has not played in a NBA game this season, so he's out for a while with this. So so that's kind of where that is.
Let's finish up with this. Speaking of the Knicks, Jake Fisher from Bleacher Report mentioned that essentially what happened, and we heard all about this, especially on the Lakers side. We heard a ton about this 3-team deal that was brewing between the Raptors, the Knicks, and the Lakers that would have involved Taylor Horton Tucker going to the Toronto Raptors, which, yes, that's tons of irony there. Goran Dragic would have gone over to the Knicks. Nerlens Noel would have gone to the Raptors. There's some other pieces in there. Alec Burks going to the Lakers, things of that nature. But the bottom line is that we heard that there were some reasons why that trade didn't actually happen, that it was pretty close to getting done, but that some draft pick issues came up where teams couldn't agree on what draft picks were going to be included in. And Jake Fisher gives us a little bit more detail, says it was the Knicks who wanted more. They wanted more in terms of draft picks. And then an Eastern Conference executive told him that the Knicks are always trying to squeeze out an extra second round pick here and an extra second round pick there. And apparently that was enough for the other parties in the deal to just say, you know what, forget it, we're out and we're done.
Yeah, all accounts. Yeah, like you said, no matter who is coming from there, they're pushing for more and draft picks and everything else. And it sounds like the other teams are like, no, we're good with the way it's structured right now. And if I was the Knicks, it's hard, right? Because I get it, but you would have gotten out of some salary obligation past this season just by taking on Dragic, who's definitely would have helped them this year, especially with now it all happened after, but all the guys who went down point guard wise. But that's also assuming Dragic would have been happy to be there. Now, I would hope, right, because he went to the Nets, he would have been okay playing for the Knicks, but we'll see. So it's I mean, or I guess we won't see. We'll never know on that one. I shouldn't have said that, but it is what it is. This is it's kind of a mess here, and there we go.
I should mention the other piece. I mean, the main piece that Lakers fans were excited about was Cam Reddish. That would have been going to LA.
Yeah.
And then it would have been Dragic and Toronto's 2022 first to the Knicks. When I look at this, so we heard Toronto connected to a number of different centers. Miles Turner was another one that they were reportedly looking at. Jakob Poeltl. It's this kind of stuff. It didn't go down. Don't erase it from your memory, right? Like Dragic went elsewhere and all of that, but just kind of keep in mind these pieces and what these teams were looking for and all of that. It may end up being nothing, but it also could become something again this summer when teams start talking trade once more.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if the Knicks are not sold on giving Cam Reddish an extension, which it's hard to know there, right? Obviously, Tibbs was not a fan and didn't really want to play him all that much, but the front office maybe, and that could be one of those things where that's just a difference, and they eventually say, hey, all right, we run the team, so you may not be here, so we're going to sign him anyway. But if Tibbs soured on that and keeping him, that's very easily one you could see, where they link back up with. Probably the Raptors are probably out of it at that point because Dragic is no longer in the mix. But maybe the Knicks and the Lakers get back at it and talk about, hey, what do you think about Burks and Reddish for this, and go from there.
And maybe,
I don't think
you throw in a Russell Westbrook and you call it good. And you call it good.
I was just going to say it's not going to be Russell Westbrook, and you did it. Oh, I'm so mad. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you take back an Evan Fournier and Alec Burks.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, if that happened, we're not doing any more shows. I'm done, because then it's just not anything we talk about and say it's not going to happen. People will just throw it in our faces for my face forever. It's just but yeah. I mean, I would laugh pretty hard if that's how that went down. I'm telling you, man, I've had more conversations with people about what's going to happen with Westbrook this summer than almost any other thing. Like there's just if you guys follow me, over at Spot Track, I've been doing a series of contract stuff for guys who are free agents or extension eligible. And I'll talk to people, and then invariably it goes to, what do you think's going to happen with Westbrook? And that leans into a whole bunch of, conversation and stuff. I truly feel, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. He's not going to be on the Lakers, but I have no idea where in the heck he might be next year. I don't think it'll be the next.
I think what's going to be really fascinating is, where is he year after next? What happens when he doesn't have a contract anymore? Because
what kind?
Who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, like if his play style can't adjust, if that's just what he is, and his play style can't adjust at all, I mean, we could be looking at a Carmelo situation potentially, where teams aren't willing to take the chance on him unless he's a maybe a veteran minimum guy or something. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I would think he'll get the mid level or something from somebody, but then I try to find a landing spot, and that's tough.
I kind of wonder if he just retires.
Yeah, he could.
He just says, I'm done. He's got outside interests. He clearly doesn't need any more money. He's made, more than enough money. And, he may just say, I've had enough of all this. Like, I don't need to do it anymore. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to do that before this year.
Right.
This coming season.
He's going to get that $47 million for sure. He's not, you're not turning that down. $47 million
is happening. Yeah. That's not going anywhere. But once that contract runs out, It'd be hard for guys to don't want to go down that path of,
Yeah.
hey, I was a max guy, I was a superstar, and now I'm taking, part of the mid-level or the mid-level or, God forbid, a minimum.
Mhm.
Some guys they're too proud for that. And they're like, no, I'm out. We'll
Yeah.
see. I mean, maybe next year he gets somewhere else and he has a bounce back year, and then everybody talks
It could
themselves
happen.
into, hey, Russell Westbrook looks pretty good.
Sure.
I mean, we'll see. Because
It
next
hap-
year, you're right, he's kind of going to be playing for his career a little bit next season.
I mean, it happened at one point. We thought Chris Paul was done, and look where things
Yeah.
are now. So I mean, you never know. You never know. Just say
Yeah.
we'll see where things go from here. But
Yep.
in any event,
Adaptability is key, right?
mm-hmm.
Well, what's Billy Bean saying? One of our favorite movies, Moneyball.
Adapt or die. Adapt or die. All right, everybody. That's a good spot to leave it off. Make sure that you do subscribe right here to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Don't forget to turn on those notifications as well. And of course, subscribe over on Apple Podcasts. Leave us that 5-star review, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.